All right, fuck it. So we got Fallen, and we'll talk Monzi. Is that how I'm supposed to say it? Monzi. Last Dance, Brazilian Last Dance. Fallen and Coldzera in talks to build Brazilian roster. My opinions and my thoughts on this. Our editor, hey, you striker, I agree with you, doesn't like the idea. It is not a good idea. I don't like this at all. I think if it were just Fallen and Cold, we're getting a Dumal or getting a Malbs, and you were building up like young talent around the veterans that still got it. Like, people shit on Fallen all the time for his individual ability lacking on Liquid, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think Fallen's like a liability with the op. He just doesn't take over games, which in a way in itself, that is kind of a liability, I guess. But I never really felt like Fallen can't hang at tier 1. And Coldzera, you guys know I kind of defend Coldzera because that man, I have a lot of respect for somebody that moves across the country and then to just kind of have the phase project not work out, and it felt like it never really succeeded or operated the way that it was supposed to. And then Complexity was just like something at the end of the year. Like, I don't know. I don't even really count that as, like, he wanted a short-term contract. I think he really just wanted to shoot his shot for the major and call it a day. So I think Fallen and Coldzera like are more than capable of competing at a tier 1 level, but I think they're not like dominating forces right now. And then bringing in Fur, and then you know, I think Fur was one of the greatest players in CSGO for a while. And then I don't know if it was motivation or like, I know he had like that ear surgery, I think, right? I don't know what it was, but that dude is like a shadow of his former self. And FNX, you know, the meme is no FNX, no major, right? He is the only player, I believe, with Bit that has 100% win rate at majors, and he's got 2. So I mean, but it's kind of like a meme. And I don't even know, what has he been playing? I don't know. I don't think he's really ready for tier 1 Counter-Strike. I could be wrong, right? No FNX, no major. He's got 100% win rate. But like, dude, this is, if this rumor was like Fallen and Coldzera to bring back a Brazilian powerhouse, looking to target Malbs, Jamal, and then maybe like who's another really good person to round out that roster? Because it can't be Safi. But there's definitely some, oh dude, who's the other heavy hitter on team 1 with Malbs? Oh, the answer is nobody. Okay, just Malbs. Yeah, just Malbs. Okay, no, never mind, just kidding, nobody. I guess it's really not anybody. Dude, it really is Safi, Malbs, and Demal running around. Like, it really is like that. That's fucking crazy, bro. You without Demal and without Malbs, you're not building a Brazilian super team. You're building a Brazilian feels good team. So basically, to sum up last thoughts on Brazilian Last Dance, I think any org will be happy to have Fallen, Coldzera, and if Fur and FNX do come back, it's gonna make the org money. I also think the project will fail. Like really hard, like really hard. So the Vitality move, probably the biggest roster move in, would you say, history, chat? I feel like this might be the biggest roster move in history in terms of like beforehand. You know, if you look in moves like in retrospect, maybe there's bigger moves, but going into this, if this is what's actually happening, which it seems like it is, I think this might be the biggest roster move in history. I can't remember the last time I saw 3 major winners. Well, I know it kind of sounds weird, but Zonic is the coach, right? That have 4 majors, or sorry, well, Magisk has 3. Going to form an international roster, another team dumping their players right after the major and their very good coach and a legendary player like Shocks. And then you make an international roster with probably the second best player in the world. That's kind of fucking crazy, right? Like, personally, I think it's gonna fail. I 100% don't think this will work. I think if there was anybody to prove me wrong, though, it would be this. If there's anybody that's going to prove me wrong, it would be Zonic. But, and Zywo can't speak English properly. Anybody that says that is just wrong, by the way. That's not why it'll fail. International rosters have not, like, been very successful. The best one has been the ones with Nico's, FaZe and G2, right? FaZe, it was supposed to be their major. And then G2, you know, it wasn't really supposed to be their major, but it's not to say international rosters can't work, right? Because they're getting to major finals, and G2 and FaZe at those times were very good in their own right. But most of the time when teams become quote unquote international rosters, they really do begin to struggle. They really do. Like, complexity was good for a short while. Then like the Obo situation happened, which wasn't, you know, a language thing. I just think the international rosters in Counter-Strike really struggle because people still don't value communication enough. And not only is language a part of that, but culture is a part of that as well. Like how you get along and how you communicate, how you convey communication. A great example of, I think people still don't understand the value or the depth or what actually happens at the highest level is just seeing the sheer amount of comments from when Kings of Content were playing in Masters about, like, they're like, dude, thank you so much. Like, I've learned so much just listening to Fallen or listening to Stu or listening to Tarek. And those guys were pugging, right? Now imagine that level of communication happening and you're using a language that isn't native to you. Even if you're good at it, it fucks up everything. Everything is slower. Extra layer of bullshit you have to go through to make sure everybody's on the same page. Bilingual people, I would imagine, you know, still to a degree have like that little hitch, right? That little hitch, and that makes all the difference. I think on paper the Vitality roster is fucking terrifying, and anybody that runs into them should be terrified. But I also think long term this just really isn't it. I feel like Apex and Zonic are going to clash, and this is where I think a culture clash will happen. Is like, I just feel like French people are very animated, very like, they're very outward about how they're feeling. And everybody knows that. We like to meme. It's what makes player cams on Apex so much fun, right? Like, I love watching Vitality games for the player cams because you can feel every emotion through the camera watching Apex, right? And that, to me, the dupreeh, Magisk, and the Astralis boys, like Glaive has like his, you know, his fist down or like his slam, but nothing like Apex, right? Nothing to the same degree. So I think there's going to be a culture clash. I think there's going to be a comms clash, and I think long term, I don't know if it works. Why does it work in Dota and League of Legends? Well, bro, they're very different games. So everybody can see the same stuff in the MOBAs. Everybody can, and like I said, it's much more like objective oriented. There's like timers. There's like certain rhythm to the game and like where you go for things. So, you know, your bottom lane doesn't have to tell your top lane, right, anything unless like they're missing, right? Or like stuff like that. Because everybody has the same information available. In Counter-Strike, you do not. All right, so let's talk EG. I don't know what the fuck's happening, EG. I agree with the removal of Stan and Mihu. I think Stan's really got it. I don't know, man. Somebody was talking about how Sponge just looks like he's just kind of doing it because he's treating it more like a job than his passion, I think is what somebody said. I think that really hits it on the head. Maybe that's not what it is, but that's what it looks like outside looking in. So for Stan, that dude just has to have fun playing Counter-Strike again. Mihu, as I say with any European player joining a North American org, the only exception to any player that's done it has been Cirque, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon. It's such a commitment to like, and going the other way too. You know, Twist, it works because that's where his personal life is, but just packing up your shit and being a part of like a team that's in a different region is really hard. Even during the COVID stuff where like they would stay in EU a lot more. I don't really, the dude was actually individually playing really well when he first came to the roster, but as he kind of settled in, honestly, his form kind of dipped, it looked like. The only thing that's a bit confusing to me is if I'm EG, I wouldn't want to lose Obo. The kid seems heavily motivated. Whenever I see him in the games, he looks like he's very polished. Like, I don't know, he looks ready to go. So I think rebuilding around Cirque and Breeze, who were in their own right top 20 players basically before COVID, is a very smart move from EG. EG is just like, you know what, like, our roster's had a really rough time, but we know these two pieces have performed at this level, and we trust that they will perform at that level again once we actually get like a functional fucking team again. And I think that's a really smart move. EG, these are the two right pieces to keep. I thought they should maybe keep Obo as well. I really don't know who they're going after. And before anybody says something stupid in the chat or in the comments, anybody that saw the stew rumor from the quote unquote EG CS account, that is a fan run account. That is literally somebody made a fan account to follow EG and to tweet out their games and got a following, and then randomly just said they're targeting Stu and they're closing in on a deal with no sources. So anybody that saw that and was like, dude, EG's getting Stu, they might be, but there's literally nothing from like an actual like reporter that we've seen in the scene before that would suggest that that's happening. I think dropping Obo, I'm curious to see where he goes, because I think Obo's really, really good. And he seems pretty motivated. I think Last Dance, pretty fucking meh. I think it's meh. They need young, fresh blood in there to pair well with the veterans if you want it to be a really competitive roster. Vitality looks absolutely fucking stacked, but culture and language, it just seems like it'll be a really big struggle. All right, and then last one, we'll talk Monzi. Is it Monzi? Monzi? Monasi? Is that how you say it? Monzi? For him, people say he's unproven because he hasn't done it at the tier 1 level. There are certain players, guys, and he could fall flat, okay? But there's certain players that are very obvious that they are ready for tier 1. All right, like it's just very obvious. Everybody knew that Zywoo would be very fucking good as soon as he got his shot, okay? Everybody knew that in the French scene. Well, no. You either thought he'd be really good or you thought he was cheating, actually. But he only was playing Premier. He was only like playing in Premier. He was playing in like tier 2, tier 3 tournaments. But everybody still knew, okay? Looking at him, it feels very similar. Now, he could still bomb out, okay? He could absolutely still bomb out, but this is the type of player, if you're an org, that you do take the risk for. This isn't, you know, I know people joke about the Juggernaut or the Colossus and all that shit, but and then they just go around and they sign players that are free agents that have big names that were large at one point, or it might still be, but kind of just like for the splash. This kid has very real potential to be something bigger and be extremely good at a tier 1 level. It's a gamble that he's not, but also because of the Academy League, it's not like you're just fucking picking up some no-namer. People know who this kid is now. By the way, I'm fucking tooting my own horn here. Wow, are you telling me where we have tier 2 development and tier 3 development, people now have a storyline and know who this kid is and are actually excited to see him move up the ranks, and he already has a brand? Isn't that sick, man? If only more people would focus on the lower levels. Back to what I'm talking about. I think the kid is worth the risk. There was a report that Navi is open for offers, but I'm trying to see who put it out there. There is going to be a bidding war, and the kid Navi's going to do a good job of making sure they get a lot of money for him. But let's just like talk about what are your other options for a professional opper that isn't under contract. Like there's some, like Knock is okay. Knock is fair. I like Knock. Poison was actually good, but he really struggled at the end, man. Maybe because the complexity environment wasn't good. This kid is a proven talent on every single level except for the highest one, which is fair reason to be a little bit skeptical, but the numbers he's had are insane, dude. I just like, I want you guys to appreciate like what he's been doing. All right, like he's been putting in work, dude. He's been putting in hella work, and then since like it was like September, the dude's banging. Yeah, he posts some negative events. He's not quite simple levels, but man, when you see like some of these games that he has, it's their complete takeovers. You know what I mean? Does he still have the same like level of swagger and the same style of gameplay when he plays with the big boys? He might crumble. Who knows? He might pop off, but it's absolutely worth the risk. Is it crazy to think that Liquid could pull the whole simple story again with Modesty? I do not think Europeans running North American teams is ever a good thing long term. I just don't. I don't think it's ever a good move long term. I especially think that getting somebody that is younger and pulling them away from their family and their culture and what they're used to being around, even worse. Even worse. Like 2 times the effect on what I'm talking about. Cirque, like I said, Cirque is the exception, not the rule, guys. Let me present to you the Cloud9 Clown Fiesta. All right, that shit was awful, and literally anybody that hasn't been named Cirque quite literally just leaves in like 2 months. But I think that kind of wraps it up. I think Monzi, absolutely worth the gamble for any fucking roster that want to pick some up. Brazilian Last Dance needs young talent or they're just gonna fall flat, and I worry about like what those guys will do if that project just fails. Shaw's Vitality, no international team has ever worked. Apex is gonna mold. Zonic's gonna mold. EG, good building blocks around them, but they got a long way to go.